the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield. Now, I've had a few requests to do this review, and I put it off. And the reason why I put it off was, one, I needed to get a shotgun review in there. I needed to. And second, I had not put many rounds through my shield at all. The guns that I typically use, the striker fire guns that I typically carry, are things like my Glock 19 or my FNS or my M&P, the full size, because they are competing as carry guns to me, and I just paid more attention to them. However, I did decide to buckle down, and I did decide to do more shooting with the shield. I have a total of around 800 rounds through it now, and I feel as if it's a fair enough test with a gun this size to give a good review. Now, this is a single stacked 9mm handgun. It is available in 40, and from what I understand, it's supposed to be, according to the press and everything, the most badass single stack striker fired handgun on the planet. Now, while that is purely a opinionated thing in a lot of ways, I personally believe that compared to its competition out there, it is the superior handgun. And here's a couple of reasons why. We're going to roll through several things that I really do enjoy about how they designed it and how they basically manipulated the design of the M&P9C and influenced that to design this handgun, which actually, honestly, if I were to compare this to a dog, I would say that this is definitely a Chihuahua. It's a small dog, but it likes to act like a big dog. And the reason why I say that is because it handles unlike the vast majority of single-stack, subcompact 9mm handguns that I've used in the past. Usually, the emphasis on the single-stack, super thin, quote-unquote, pocket guns is to put a huge emphasis on lightness and smallness, right? What happens, though, is that when a lot of gun manufacturers do that, is that the guns are very difficult to control. They put 10, 12-pound striker-fired triggers in there, or hammered triggers in there, depending on who is making what. And the sights on them generally suck in a lot of ways. Now, there are absolutely exceptions. For instance, the CAR, because they actually do have a pretty good set of sights, and SIG does make a subcompact single-stack gun, or 9mm and 40, that also have pretty good set of sights. Now, a big distinguishing thing between this and the vast majority of the others also is that this is actually very, very reliable. I was expecting a this gun sucks period or a break-in period for the first couple hundred rounds. I got none of that. I got the only malfunction that I have witnessed with this gun was one that was basically caused by me, and that'll run into an issue that we'll talk about here in a second. Now we're going to go from top to bottom. Now, if you look closely, and I'm going to focus here so you can, the sights on this guy, the front and rear, are actually pretty good. If I compare that to its full-size M&P, you'll see that the size or the gap in the center for your rear sight is about the same, right? And this is not a stock M&P rear sight. This is actually from 10-8 Performance, but that's a sight made for a full-size gun. This is a sight made for, obviously, a gun this profile. And to have a near full-sized set of sights is actually a big deal, because guns this size are generally much harder to shoot. So everything that you can get to help yourself out is going to be a major advantage for you. The second thing, and I don't even know why I came out the focus for it, are the scallop serrations. They remained very M&P-like on the scallop slide serrations, and they do work very, very well. The third thing that I rather enjoy about this is the size of that extractor. If you compare that to the size of the full size or the 9C, if there's a difference in size, it's very negligible to the point where you wouldn't be able to notice. Now, the next thing that I really do enjoy is that the gun itself is deceivingly heavy. And generally speaking, a lot of guys that are looking for a gun this size are like, oh, why would you like weight? Adding weight to a gun this size helps out its shootability. And a lot of the reason why it is heavier is because there's more steel internally for the slide to run on. And the slide itself is made out of stainless steel. As well as the fact that its weight playing a pretty good advantage, the recoil spring in here works very well also. It smooths out the action and it calms a lot of that extra muzzle flip up. It calms down a lot of that extra little muzzle flip. And it absolutely shoots much better than a lot of the guns in its class. And here's the big thing. Here's the big thing that everyone wanted the Shield for, because they knew that this part would go into the rest of the M&P line of guns. The next thing that everyone wanted this gun for was this trigger. Now, everyone knows at this point that a full-sized M&P or an older one, that trigger has a little bit of creep in it. When the gun gets tight, you'll be able to move a little bit more. And hold on, you'll be able to see. You saw a little bit of squish in there and then it broke. Now try to listen for a reset. That reset is very squishy and very subtle. Trying to feel that out while you're trying to go faster is obviously a much more difficult endeavor than, say, a Glock 19 or something. Now, the reason why everyone wanted this gun, and the reason why lots of people are coming over to M&Ps now, is for this reason. When the trigger gets tight, and you can see my trigger finger white knuckle in a little bit, you can see that it's tight. Now, very little movement. It breaks very crisp, especially for a gun in its class. And the trigger definitely is heavier, but it's very manageable when you have a good press and a good crisp release. Like that. Now, the next thing is this reset. You heard the M&P reset, now listen for this one. It's audible, and I'm telling you right now, guys, it's noticeable in the feel as well. So it helps out when you are trying to go through all your fundamentals and doing your follow through and your reset and everything, to have a trigger that'll reset fairly well. And now that the stock guns are coming out of it, I see Apex taking a serious hit, because one of the major reasons that most people would end up getting that trigger in the first place is for a reset. The next thing that I genuinely do like about this handgun also is these floor plates on the magazines. You can see on both of them, the 7 and the 8 rounder, that there's a place for you to grip onto. Now, if you have a malfunction or something, or if you're starting to get a bad follower or a bad spring, it still functions. Or if you have a bad magazine release now and it doesn't want to eject, you have a method in which to strip that magazine for those reasons. Or if you have a double feed or something, and you can actually just get on the thing and strip it like you should. Now, I personally believe that little detail absolutely helps, and it's value added, so why not, you know? The next thing is that for a gun its size and its thinness, it shoots very well. And I have skinny fingers, I really do, but I do have long digits. And with the 7-round magazine, my pinky hangs over it just a little bit. With the 8-round magazine, the grip is full and it works out pretty well. But now that we have addressed things that I personally like about the handgun, we're going to address things that I don't care for very much. and we'll start with this magazine. The 8-round magazine that comes with this gun, for some strange reason, the sleeve that's here is a tension fit sleeve only, which to me does not make a whole lot of sense. I don't really understand why they didn't just mold the sleeve in. And to me, that's rather frustrating because the gun itself is made very well. It feels immaculate and it shoots very, very smooth for a gun its size. And then you have to pull some hokey shit like this. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to take an epoxy and I'm going to glue this sleeve to the top of the floor plate and call it good. Now, another thing that I don't care for too much, but I do understand, is this is a right-handed only gun. It's not like its bigger brothers, to where there is an ambidextrous slide release, and the magazine release is not reversible, and the safety is not ambidextrous either. Personally, as a lefty, I don't like this, but I do understand why it's there, because their intent was to make the thinnest gun possible and also make it reliable and pretty smooth shooting as far as its competition is concerned. So I understand why they decided to pull those parts. But the biggest thing that I don't like is what you're about to see here in a minute. When I first took this gun out, and it still persists a little bit to this day, I actually had to alter a technique that I adapted to give you the footage. For some reason or another, I realized that I was dropping magazines out, and at first I thought that they weren't seating, so I just jam them in there really, really hard and just slap them in. But unfortunately, I realized after a little bit that that wasn't the problem. What I realized was, as a left-handed shooter, you can tell that when I go in and grip this thing, this middle finger is covering that magazine release. Now, when I come over with a high thumbs forward grip, my index finger is pushing on the little bit of skin that's on that left finger. And when I would get into it and I would grip it and I would attempt to fire, when it fired, I would end up pushing that magazine release with that index finger. Now, the solution, and this is something that lefties need to pay attention to, the solution that I came up with was that instead of doing a standard grip, and yes, you're going to have to drill the hell out of this because drawing it took forever to do right, you have to take that index finger and roll it over the knuckle of your middle finger. For my specific situation, that helped out because now I can grip the gun as tight as I want and I don't have that issue anymore. The magazine release is very functional, it's very crisp, and the followers push out very well. The problem with that is being a left-handed shooter and dealing with that issue. Okay. And those are really the only hits that I do have on the handgun. One more thing is that, and this isn't really a hit or a plus on the gun, it's just kind of peculiar. The safety, while I understand that it's supposed to be low profile and out of the way, the safety is in my opinion, much more difficult to engage than disengage because you can just come down on it similar to a 1911 safety and it just snicks right off. Trying to do that same motion and trying to snick it back on is much more difficult. Doing this right-handed, I actually would have to change my grip just a little bit to get a little more knuckle into that safety and push it up. Because I'm a lefty, I personally choose not to run the safety, but if you do choose to run the safety, understand that you are going to have to train with that a little more. So, the bottom line is that this gun is deceivingly heavy. It shoots smoother than you think it would, and it's actually pretty accurate. I mean, if you can handle a little bit of the extra muzzle flip, which I notice that I do flinch quite a bit more with this gun. So if you can handle the extra muzzle flip, it is damn accurate. It shoots pretty well, and you can see that when I'm on it, I'm on it. And you can even tell on some of my misses, I go ahead and do the lizard. So if you square yourself away, this gun works out very well because I've had no issues with it. The trigger is much better. It's far and away the best M&P trigger out of the box that I've felt. And it just helps you out in a lot of ways as far as the smoothness of shooting, the grip, the trigger reset, and in a lot of ways the controls too. So if you're looking to get this handgun, I got this and a appendix carry holster for about $440. Okay, it might vary where you're at right now, but the way that things are, I'm actually really surprised that I got a Shield for that price. So, thank you for watching. I hope that you guys found this information helpful, and remember, a regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy, guys.